All right, so you ready for this? We're going to do a deep dive on Aeman Presley,
Oh, yeah.
a serial killer, and his story's just got so many twists and turns. We're
Yes.
looking at his Wikipedia page,
Court.
court records,
Mm-hmm.
and even a couple of documentaries about him.
Wow.
And it's like, how do you go from wanting to be an actor to a convicted murderer?
Yeah. What is that journey like?
It's a wild one, for sure.
And what's really fascinating to me is like Presley really kind of highlights this nature versus nurture debate.
Right,
Was he born to be violent,
right.
or did his environment shake him that way?
Yeah,
I mean, he was born in Chicago in 1980 and had a rough start,
yeah.
abandoned by his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time he was 12, he was caught up in gang activity.
12. I mean, I remember being 12. I was worried about what my friends thought of me and, like, what homework I had to imagine having to navigate gangs at 12.
Violence at 12?
Yeah, just chilling to think about.
Yeah, and that early exposure to violence is often, we see
Right.
so hard to break that cycle.
Yeah.
But his mom, she moved him to Stone Mountain, Georgia in 1995,
Okay.
hoping for a fresh start.
New scenery, new start. Maybe it'll be better.
Fingers crossed, right?
Yeah.
But
But of course not.
he just couldn't escape it, could he?
No. So he joins the Georgia National Guard, but gets discharged.
Okay.
Bounces between low-skilled jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Struggles with drug addiction.
Yeah.
And there's reports of him having more and more antisocial behavior.
Wow.
Then he gives this interview as a teenager to Times Daily.
Really?
He talks about his past as a gang member.
Can you imagine if that journalist knew?
Right, what this kid was going to grow up to be.
It gives me chills to think about it now.
Yeah.
It's like a window into his mind at a crucial time,
I wonder if there are clues in that interview.
Oh, for sure.
But in 2002, things get scary.
Okay, what happened?
He's fired from his job at Carbox Cinemas for threatening his coworkers.
That's not good.
And then just a year later, he's arrested for assaulting his own mother.
So the violence is escalating.
It's getting worse and worse.
That's a huge red flag.
For sure.
Going from threats to actually hurting someone,
Mm-hmm.
that's a sign that he's losing control.
Right, like he can't control his anger.
Yeah, and it almost sounds like the McDonald triad,
Okay.
which is like these 3 behavioral traits
Okay.
that are linked to violent behavior.
Interesting.
So maybe those were already showing up.
And then this is where it gets interesting.
Okay, tell me.
So, despite all this violence, he wants to become an actor.
Really?
Yeah,
An actor?
an actor. He moves to Atlanta,
Okay.
makes connections in the movie industry,
Wow.
and even gets some small roles
Okay.
in these low-budget films,
Okay.
like between 2008 and 2009.
Interesting.
I mean, we see this with some serial killers, like
Right.
this desire to be in the spotlight.
Yeah, like Ted Bundy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Maybe this was his version of that.
I mean, is that what he was trying to do?
Yeah. It's hard to know for sure. Was it about control?
Yeah.
Like the control he couldn't find in his real life?
Right.
Or maybe it was
Just
genuine.
trying to change.
Escape his past
Yeah.
and, create a new reality for himself.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating question.
So he goes all in on this acting dream,
He does.
moves to LA in 2010, and enrolls in this prestigious acting school,
Which one?
the Margie Haber Studio.
Oh, wow. I know that one.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good school.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can picture him there, right?
Yeah.
Caught up in all the glitz and
The
glamour.
Hollywood dream.
Exactly. Surrounded by all these other wannabe actors.
But Hollywood's tough.
Oh, yeah.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
The rejection,
Yeah.
the competition.
The
It
crash.
can really break you down.
Yeah, and for someone like Presley,
Right.
with all his baggage.
It's like adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous mix.
So he doesn't make it big.
No.
Mostly just gets extra work.
Oh,
That must have been crushing for him.
totally after uprooting his whole life.
Right, leaving everything behind for this dream.
The frustration, the disillusionment.
It must have been intense.
Yeah. And then what happens?
Well, he starts spending most of his time alone,
Okay.
falls deeper into substance abuse,
He's spiraling.
and then in 2014, he's detained for drug possession.
Oh boy, is this the turning point?
Yeah, I think this is where things really start to unravel.
Could they have helped him then?
Right, like intervene somehow.
Or was he already too far gone?
Yeah, was there any turning back at this point?
That's what's so hard to know.
So he ends up back in Atlanta,
Defeated.
totally defeated.
No job, no home.
He ends up in a homeless shelter
Wow.
and then steals a revolver from a car.
Oh no.
This is where his killing spree begins.
So that's it, the access to a weapon
Yeah.
mixed with his mental state.
And the desperation.
It's a recipe for disaster.
A terrifying combination.
It really is.
And over the next 4 months, he commits 4 murders.
Okay.
His first victim was Calvin Golston.
Okay.
He was a 53-year-old man struggling with schizophrenia.
So he targeted someone vulnerable?
Yeah, someone who couldn't really fight back.
It's a cowardly act.
It really is preying on the weak.
Yeah. And it says a lot about his state of mind at that time.
Then on November 23, 2014, he kills again.
Who was it this time?
Doreen Jenkins, another homeless man.
Oh, wow.
And then 3 days later,
Mm-hmm.
it's 68-year-old Tommy Mims.
And he was
sleeping under a bridge.
Oh, my gosh.
And get this, he shoots Mims.
Yeah.
And then comes back and shoots him again.
That's brutal. Why would he do that?
And like he wanted to inflict pain.
Yeah, more than just taking a life.
Right, like he needed to show his
And
power.
dominate.
Yeah, it's
It
disturbing.
really is.
And then his final victim,
Okay.
Karen Pierce,
Mm-hmm.
she was 44 years old.
How did he?
He robbed her at gunpoint.
Okay.
And even though she did everything he said,
Oh, no.
he shot and killed her instantly.
That's senseless.
Like, all these murders were so random.
Right. Is there any connection between them?
I mean, that's what's so scary about this case. There's
Mhm.
no obvious pattern.
So was it just about the killing itself?
That's what it seemed like.
Chilling.
It is
So
chilling.
thankfully, he's caught.
Yeah, his reign of terror ends.
Oh.
On December 11, 2014,
Mhm.
he's arrested for fair evasion.
Wait, what?
Fair evasion.
Fair evasion.
Yeah.
That's how they got him.
That's how they got him.
Wow. Talk about a small infraction.
Right, leading to something huge.
And I bet he thought he was going to get away with it.
Probably. So they arrest him.
Yeah.
And during the arrest,
Mm-hmm.
they find the murder weapon
Oh, wow.
and a bank card belonging to one of his victims.
So it's all over.
It's all over.
Wow, those little details. They always get you.
Oh, it's...
So what happens next?
So Presley confesses to all 4 murders,
He does.
and he gives them all these chilling details
Oh,
about each one.
I can't even imagine.
And then the trials and sentencing, it
Uh-huh.
was just this whirlwind of legal proceedings. And
Yeah.
it really shows you how complex a justice system can be.
Yeah, we can dive into that in part 2.
Sounds good. Okay, so his first trial starts in September 2015
Okay.
for the murders of Golston and Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
And they offer him a plea deal,
Interesting.
which he accepts.
He takes it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and ends up with 2 life sentences without parole.
Wow. So no death penalty.
No death penalty, but he's basically going to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Right.
I mean, that's a long time.
It is. And plea deals,
Yeah.
they're pretty common in these types of cases.
Mhm.
It guarantees a conviction,
Right.
and it avoids the whole death penalty charge.
Well, can be.
Long and expensive. Super expensive.
So then in January 2017,
Okay.
he's on trial again
What for this time?
for the murders of Jenkins and Mims.
Okay.
And this time he pleads guilty,
Okay.
but claims insanity.
Oh, wow.
And it's in this trial that he says he became addicted to murder after the first killing.
Addicted to murder.
Addicted to murder.
That is chilling.
It sends chills down my spine.
Like, what does that even mean?
Right.
Addicted to murder.
How can you be addicted to something like that?
I mean, it's obviously a legal strategy,
Right.
but it makes you think
It does.
about free will, responsibility.
Right, yeah.
Was he really not in control of his actions?
Or was this all just a way to try and get a lighter sentence?
Exactly. It's tough to say.
Is this something that you see a lot in your line of work?
People claiming insanity
Yeah.
or addiction to these horrific acts.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon,
Really?
but every case is different.
Okay.
You have to look at their history,
Yeah.
their mental state,
Mm-hmm.
what happened leading up to the crimes.
Right.
There's never just one simple answer.
And that's what makes it so fascinating, I guess.
Exactly. It's what keeps us coming back.
Right. I'm trying to figure out the puzzle.
Trying to understand the why, peeling back the layers.
It's so easy to just label someone in a monster,
I know.
but it's so much harder to figure out how they got to that point.
That's the real work.
It is.
And that's why we do what we do,
to try and make sense of it all.
to find the humanity.
Yeah. Even in the darkest places.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to go back to Presley's acting career for a second.
Okay.
Could that have played a role in all of this?
It's possible.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
He goes to Hollywood,
Mhm.
chasing this dream,
Yeah.
but it doesn't work out.
He fails. And for someone like him,
Yeah.
with his issues,
Yeah.
that rejection,
Mhm.
the isolation,
The loneliness.
it could have made things worse.
So much worse.
especially for someone with a fragile ego,
Right.
that kind of failure can be devastating.
Totally.
You feel powerless,
Yeah.
like you've lost control,
Uh-huh.
and you want it back.
And how do you get back?
Well, sometimes through violence.
So it's not like Hollywood created these violent tendencies in him,
Right.
but it might have amplified them.
Exactly, like a pressure cooker.
So it's this combination of things.
A perfect storm.
A troubled past.
The violence
themes.
and easy access to a gun.
It's a recipe for disaster.
It really is.
So if we take a step back
Okay.
and look at the big picture,
Hmm.
what can we learn from Aeman Presley's story?
That's the big question.
What does it tell us about violence?
About the human mind?
About the potential for both good and evil that we all have inside of us.
It's complicated.
It is complicated.
But I think one thing's for sure.
What's that?
There's rarely just one cause for violent behavior.
Right, it's a combination of things.
Our genes, our environment, the situations we find ourselves in.
And that makes me think about early intervention.
Yeah.
And access to mental health resources.
Absolutely.
I mean, what if Presley had gotten the help he needed
Right.
at different points in his life?
At those critical moments,
Would things have been different?
it's impossible to know for sure.
I know, but it's a question we have to ask.
We do.
If only to learn and maybe prevent future tragedies.
Exactly. We owe it to the victims.
This is a heavy topic.
It is.
But I think it's important to keep asking these questions
Yeah.
to try and understand the root causes of violence in our society.
And to find solutions.
Yeah.
If we can save even one life, prevent one tragedy,
by learning from cases like Presley's,
it's worth it.
it's all worth it.
So before we move on, I
Yeah.
wanted to mention a couple of documentaries
Oh, yeah.
that give some more insight into Presley's case.
Great.
There's one on investigation discovery called Signs of a Psychopath,
Okay.
and another on A&E called The First 48.
Cool.
They both offer a really fascinating look into the investigation
Okay.
and the criminal mind.
Cool, but we should probably say
What's that?
that these shows, they can be a little sensationalized,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
right? So just keep that in mind.
Approach them with a critical eye.
Yes, they're not always completely balanced or objective.
Right. Entertainment first.
Exactly.
Remember,
Yeah.
behind every crime, there's a human story,
Yeah.
a complicated human story.
Waiting to be understood.
Exactly.
So, with that said,
Yeah.
let's move on to our final thoughts. So, wow, this deep dive has been intense.
Yeah, it really have.
I mean, we've gone from Presley's tough childhood to his acting dreams falling apart,
Right.
and then just all this violence.
Heady stuff.
It really is. It's left me with a lot to think about.
Me too.
So what stands out to you the most about this case?
You know what gets me is the randomness of it all.
Yeah, the murders.
The murders, they just seem so random.
Right, like there's no real motive,
It's like the killing itself was the motive.
which is terrifying.
Yeah, it really sets him apart from other serial killers.
Like, how so?
Well, a lot of times there's a specific fantasy,
Okay.
a desire for control,
Mm-hmm.
or even like a twisted sense of justice. Okay. Yeah. But Presley, he just doesn't fit that mold.
It's like he just snapped.
And the violence took over.
Which makes it even scarier.
Because it feels so unpredictable.
Right, like anyone could be a target.
And it makes you think,
About what?
about those missed opportunities.
Right, could things have been different?
If someone had intervened.
If he'd gotten help?
Yeah, it's a question that will always haunt us.
I mean, we can see the signs looking back.
The trauma, the violence, the drugs.
Yeah, all the red flags were there.
But it's so easy to say that now.
Right, hindsight's 20/20.
Exactly. In the moment, it's much harder.
Yeah, to know who's going to go down that path.
And who's not?
So I guess what Presley's story teaches us
Yeah.
is that we need to be more aware,
More vigilant.
to look for those warning signs,
To speak up.
and to get people help.
Absolutely. We have to create a culture
Yeah.
where it's okay to ask for help
Right, and to get the help you need.
without judgment. Yeah, mental health is just as important as physical health.
It really is.
We need to start treating it that way.
Okay, so to wrap things up,
Yeah.
Aeman Presley's story.
It's a tragedy,
It is a tragedy.
but it's also a reminder
Of what?
that human behavior is complex,
Yeah,
that our systems aren't perfect.
and that sometimes we just don't have all the answers.
But it also gives us hope.
Hope for what?
Hope that by understanding these cases,
Mm-hmm.
we can prevent future tragedy.
Right, by learning from the past.
Exactly. Knowledge is power.
And to you, our listener,
Yeah.
we encourage you to keep learning
Keep exploring
about the criminal justice system,
about mental health
and about how we can create a safer world.
a more just world.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a journey
It has been a journey,
in the dark side of humanity.
but also a reminder of the importance of compassion
Let's understand.
and of our responsibility to each other.
Until next time.
Keep questioning, keep learning.